The police car's red and blue lights bounced off the fancy gate of the Riverside Meadows estate. 2 officers stood between me and the woman with the bright blonde hair who had called them. Her face was red like a tomato, and she was waving her phone around like a sword. "Officers, arrest this man," she screamed, pointing her finger at me. "He's trespassing on my property. He refuses to leave, and he's causing a disturbance in our community." Officer Martinez looked at me, then at her, then back at me. "Ma'am, can you calm down and explain what's happening here?" The woman, I'd later learn her name was Patricia Henderson, president of the Riverside Meadows Homeowners Association, took a deep breath that made her shoulders go up and down. This person," she said the word like it tasted bad, "was found walking through our new estate. When I told him he needed to move into one of our homes and follow our HOA rules, he laughed at me. Can you believe it? He laughed." "I didn't just laugh," I said calmly. "I told you I wasn't moving anywhere." "Exactly," Patricia shrieked. "He's refusing to comply with our community standards. He's trespassing. He's... Officer Chen, the younger of the 2 cops, pulled out his notepad. "Sir, can I see some identification?" I reached into my back pocket slowly. Patricia's eyes got really big, like she thought I was reaching for something scary. The other people from the neighborhood who had gathered around to watch whispered to each other. Some had their phones out, recording everything. "This should be interesting," I said, pulling out my wallet. What I showed them next would change everything. But to understand why that little plastic card caused Patricia Henderson to go completely silent for the first time in her life, you need to know how I ended up standing in front of 2 confused police officers on a Saturday afternoon in June. It all started 3 months earlier, in March. I was sitting in my old farmhouse, drinking coffee, and looking out at the fields my grandfather had left me. The house wasn't fancy. The paint was peeling in some spots, and the porch creaked when you walked on it. But it was mine, and it sat on 20 acres of beautiful land just outside the city. My name is Marcus Webb, and I'm a 34-year-old history teacher. I've lived in this house since my grandfather died 5 years ago and left it to me in his will. Before that, my grandpa lived here for 50 years, and before him, his father, my great-grandfather, built this house with his own hands back in 1952. This land meant everything to my family. On that March morning, I heard trucks, lots of them. Big, loud construction trucks rumbling down the old dirt road that ran along the eastern edge of my property. I walked outside with my coffee mug and saw something that made my heart drop into my stomach. Workers were putting up wooden posts and orange construction tape. Big machines were digging into the ground. And there, standing in the middle of it all with a clipboard and a hard hat, was a woman in an expensive-looking pantsuit. I walked over, confused. "Excuse me," I called out. "What's going on here?" The woman turned around. She had blonde hair pulled back so tight it probably hurt, and she wore sunglasses that cost more than my car. She looked me up and down like I was a bug she found in her salad. "And you are?" she asked, not friendly at all. "Marcus Webb. I live right there." I pointed to my farmhouse about 100 feet away. "This is my property line. What are you building?" She smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the kind of smile a shark makes before it bites you. "Actually, no. This is the future site of Riverside Meadows Estate, a luxury community for people with refined tastes." "Refined tastes?" I repeated. "Lady, this is my land. My grandfather's land. It's been in my family for over 70 years. She pulled out her clipboard and shoved some papers in my face. "According to the county records, this land was sold to Henderson Development Corporation 6 months ago. We own it now." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I never sold anything." "Well, someone did," she said, turning back to her workers. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a community to build. Oh, and you might want to move that old farmhouse of yours. It's bringing down the property values already." She walked away before I could say anything else. I spent the next week in a panic. I went to the county office, pulled records, looked through my grandfather's old papers. And that's when I discovered something that made me so angry I could barely see straight. The land they were building on? It wasn't just near my property. 3 acres of it was my property. Someone had changed the property line records. The papers the blonde woman showed me were fake, or at least they showed boundaries that didn't match the real original survey from when my great-grandfather bought the land. I hired a lawyer. His name was Mr. Chen, no relation to Officer Chen, and he was expensive but good. He looked at all my documents, the original deed, my grandfather's will, the old survey maps, and then he looked at the county records. "Marcus," he said, shaking his head. "Someone committed fraud. They altered the property records to make it look like that land was available for sale. Your actual property line extends 3 acres into where they're building." "So, what do I do?" I asked. "We fight," he said. "But it's going to take time. These things always do. Months, maybe a year." But we didn't have months. The construction was happening now. Every day I watched them pour concrete and frame houses on land that belonged to me. Every day I felt more helpless. I tried talking to the workers. They said they were just doing their jobs. I tried calling the construction company. They wouldn't return my calls. I tried going to the city council. They said it was a private property dispute and they couldn't help. And then, one day in early May, she showed up at my door. Patricia Henderson, the blonde woman from the construction site. But this time she wasn't wearing a hard hat. She was wearing a business suit and carrying a fancy leather folder. "Mr. Webb," she said, smiling that shark smile again. "I'm Patricia Henderson, president of the Riverside Meadows Homeowners Association." "I know who you are," I said. "You're the one building on my land." Her smile didn't change. "I'm here to offer you a wonderful opportunity. We're nearly finished with Phase 1 of Riverside Meadows. Beautiful homes, starting at only $450,000. And because of your proximity to our community, we're prepared to offer you a special deal." "A special deal?" I asked. "Yes. You can purchase one of our lovely townhomes for only $425,000. That's $25,000 off. All you have to do is tear down this old farmhouse and join our community. We have very reasonable HOA fees, only $350 per month, and our community standards ensure everyone maintains the beauty and value of our neighborhood." I stared at her. "You want me to tear down my family's house, pay you almost $500,000, and then pay you $350 every month for the privilege of living in a neighborhood you built on land you stole from me?" Her smile finally fell. "Mr. Webb, I don't appreciate your tone. We didn't steal anything. We purchased this land legally through proper channels." "Your proper channels involved fraud and forged documents," I said. "My lawyer has proof." "Lawyers?" She waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "Lawyers take forever and they cost money. Lots of money. Money I'm betting a small-time teacher like you doesn't have."
"By the time your case goes through the courts, our community will be fully built and occupied. So why fight? Why not just accept reality and join us?" "Get off my porch," I said quietly. "Excuse me." I said, "Get off my porch. This is MY property. The real property line is right there." I pointed to an old oak tree about 30 feet away. "Everything on this side of that tree is mine, and it's going to stay mine." Patricia's face turned red. Fine, but you're making a big mistake, Mr. Webb. A very big mistake. Riverside Meadows is happening whether you like it or not. And when we're done, your little farmhouse is going to look like a garbage dump next to our beautiful homes. Property values will rise all around you, and you'll be stuck here in your falling-apart house with nothing." She stormed off to her expensive car and drove away. But she was wrong about one thing. My house wasn't falling apart. That weekend, I started fixing it up. I painted the porch. I fixed the fence. I mowed the lawn and planted new flowers. If they were going to build their fancy neighborhood around me, fine, but they weren't going to make me feel ashamed of my home. May turned into June. The construction finished. Families started moving into Riverside Meadows, and Patricia Henderson made sure everyone knew about the problem property on the edge of their perfect community. She started a whisper campaign. I heard from a friend who knew someone moving in that Patricia told new residents I was difficult and refused to follow community standards. She told them my farmhouse was bringing down their investment. Then came the letters. The first one arrived on a Tuesday. It was on fancy Riverside Meadows HOA letterhead. "Dear resident," it began, "that already made me mad. I wasn't their resident. This is a courtesy notice that your property is not in compliance with Riverside Meadows community standards. Please address the following violations within 30 days. House exterior must be repainted in approved colors, beige, tan, or cream only. Fence must be replaced with approved white vinyl fencing. Vehicles must be parked in garage, not driveway. Lawn must be maintained to HOA standards, no grass over 2.5 inches. Failure to comply will result in fines of $100 per day per violation. I threw the letter in the trash. The second letter came a week later. Same demands, plus new ones about my garden shed and the old oak tree that extended branches over HOA property. I threw that one away too. The third letter threatened legal action. That's when I called Mr. Chen, my lawyer. Can they do this? I asked. He laughed, actually laughed. Marcus, you're not part of their HOA, you never signed their agreements, you don't live in their community. These letters are meaningless, they have no legal authority over you whatsoever. So I can just ignore them. Completely, in fact, keep them, they might help our case show harassment. I felt better for about 3 days. Then Patricia showed up at my door again. This time she had 2 other women with her, both dressed like they were going to a business meeting, both with the same tight, unfriendly faces. Mr. Webb, Patricia said, we need to talk. No, we don't, I said, starting to close the door. One of the other women, her name tag said Jennifer, VP of Community Standards, stuck her foot in the door. Mr. Webb, we're trying to be reasonable here. Your property is now surrounded on 3 sides by Riverside Meadows. You're part of our community, whether you like it or not. I'm not part of anything, I said. You're ruining our property values, the third woman screeched. Do you know how hard we worked to create this community? Do you know how much money we invested? Maybe you should have checked the real property lines before you built, I said. Patricia's face went from normal to red to almost purple. We are giving you one last chance. Move into our community, follow our rules, or face the consequences. What consequences? I asked. She smiled, that terrible shark smile. You'll see. They left. 2 weeks went by, nothing happened. I started to think maybe they'd given up. I was so wrong. It was a Saturday morning, the same Saturday I mentioned at the beginning. I was in my backyard, planting tomatoes, when I heard a car horn, not a little beep. A long, angry HOOONK that went on for like 30 seconds. I walked around to the front of my house and saw Patricia Henderson standing next to a brand new white Mercedes. She was blocking my driveway. Mr. Webb, she shouted when she saw me, I am ordering you to move into Riverside Meadows immediately. Ordering me? I walked closer. Lady, you can't order me to do anything. Yes, I can. I am the HOA president. This is MY community, and you are in violation of. I'm not in your community, I said slowly, like I was talking to a little kid. This is MY property, I own it. You have no authority here. That's when she pulled out her phone and started yelling. Fine, fine. If you won't listen to reason, maybe you'll listen to the police. And that's exactly what she did. She called 911 and reported me for trespassing on her property and refusing to comply with community standards. Which brings us back to where we started. Me, Patricia, 2 police officers, and a crowd of nosy neighbors all gathered at the entrance to Riverside Meadows. Officer Chen was still waiting for my ID. I pulled out my wallet and flipped it open. But I didn't show them my driver's license. Instead, I pulled out a different card, one that made Patricia's face go from angry red to ghostly white in about 2 seconds. Is that, Officer Martinez started to say. Yep, I said, smiling for the first time that day. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. No sound came out. The crowd of neighbors pressed closer, trying to see what I was holding. And that's when everything. Officer Martinez leaned in closer to look at what I was holding. His eyebrows went up so high they almost disappeared under his police hat. Ma'am, he said to Patricia, his voice suddenly very serious. You might want to step back. What? Why? Patricia sputtered. What is he showing you? It doesn't matter what. This is a certified property deed, Officer Martinez said, holding up the card I'd given him. Registered with the county, and according to this, Mr. Webb owns not just the farmhouse, but 3 acres extending into your development. The crowd gasped. People started whispering to each other louder now. Patricia's face went from white to red again. That's fake. He's lying. Our lawyers checked everything. Ma'am, this has the county seal on it, Officer Chen said, looking at the document. This is official. And see this notation here? It says there's an active legal dispute filed 2 months ago about fraudulent property line alterations. I filed that dispute, I said calmly, against Henderson Development Corporation. That's your company, isn't it, Patricia? Patricia looked like she wanted to sink into the ground and disappear. All her neighbors were staring at her now. Some looked confused. Others looked angry. You mean, said a man in an expensive golf shirt, you built our houses on stolen land? No, that's not, Patricia started. Actually, I continued, pulling out another paper from my wallet, I also have this. It's a cease and desist order from my attorney. It was sent to Henderson Development Corporation 3 weeks ago. It clearly states that any harassment of me or my property would be documented for our lawsuit. Officer Martinez looked at Patricia. Did you receive this cease and desist? Patricia's mouth opened and closed. That is, my lawyer's handle. So you did receive it, Officer Chen said, and then you called 911 to report a false trespassing claim. It's not false, Patricia shrieked. He's ruining our community. He won't follow the rules. He doesn't have to follow your rules, Officer Martinez said firmly. Ma'am, he's not part of your HOA. He owns his property. You can't force him to move or follow your community standards. But, Patricia looked around at all the neighbors watching. Our property values, our beautiful community. A woman in yoga pants pushed forward from the crowd. Wait, so you're telling me that the HOA president built our neighborhood on land that doesn't belong to her? I paid $460,000 for my house. Me too, another person shouted. I paid $485,000, yelled someone else. The crowd was getting angry now, but they weren't angry at me anymore. They were angry at Patricia. Everyone, please calm down. Patricia held up her hands. This is just a minor property dispute. These things happen all the time in real estate. It will be sorted out in court. And how much of our neighborhood is on his land? The golf shirt man demanded. I pulled out a map from my back pocket. I'd been carrying it around for weeks, just in case. The red line shows the real property boundary. The blue line shows where your HOA thinks the boundary is. I held it up so everyone could see. The difference was shocking. 3 whole acres of riverside meadows, including 2 complete houses, part of the main road, and a chunk of the fancy community park, were on MY land. The crowd exploded with noise. Everyone was shouting at once. My house is on the red side. The park we paid HOA fees for isn't even on HOA land. Is our deed even legal? I want my money back. Patricia looked like she might cry or scream or both. Officers, aren't you going to do something? Officer Martinez shook his head. Ma'am, the only thing we can do is suggest you contact your attorney. This is a civil property dispute. But I will note in my report that you filed a false police report and attempted to use law enforcement to harass a property owner who has a legal cease and desist order against you. That could be a misdemeanor charge, Officer Chen added helpfully. Patricia's face went white again. A charge against me. Filing a false report is a crime, ma'am, Officer Martinez said. I almost felt bad for her, almost. But then I remembered all the nasty letters, all the threats, all the times she tried to bully me into giving up my family's land. Officers, I said quietly, I don't want to press charges. I just want to be left alone. Patricia looked at me with wide eyes. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked scared instead of angry. However, I continued, if the harassment continues, I'll have no choice. My lawyer has documented everything. Every letter, every visit, every threat. It's all evidence for our lawsuit. Officer Martinez nodded. Mr. Webb is being very generous, ma'am. I suggest you take his offer and contact your attorney first thing Monday morning. The officers started walking back to their car. The crowd began to break up, but I could hear them still arguing and asking questions. Patricia just stood there, looking lost. I turned to go back to my house when the yoga pants woman jogged up to me. Mr. Webb, she said, I'm sorry, I'm Sarah Chen. I live in house number 12. Okay, I said, not sure where this was going. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for judging you. Patricia told us all you were some kind of problem neighbor who refused to maintain your property. She made it sound like you were bringing down our whole neighborhood. She's good at that, I said. Sarah looked back at her house, a nice 2-story place with a white fence and perfect landscaping. Is my house on your land? I looked at my map. No, you're safe. You're about 50 feet inside the real HOA boundary. She let out a big breath. Oh, thank God. My husband and I saved for 10 years to buy this place. If we lost it because of fraud, she shook her head. Do you really have to take the land back? That was a good question. I don't know yet, I admitted. My lawyer says we have several options. We could force them to tear down everything on my land. We could negotiate a sale price at a fair price, not the stolen price, or we could work out some kind of easement or compromise. What do you want to do? Sarah asked. I looked at my farmhouse in the distance. Then I looked at the fancy houses of Riverside Meadows. I just want what's fair. My grandfather loved this land. My great-grandfather built our house with his own hands. I'm not going to let someone steal it just because they have money and lawyers. Sarah nodded. That makes sense. Well, for what it's worth, I think most of us would have done the same thing. She paused. Also, Patricia has been kind of awful as an HOA president. Last month she fined my neighbor $200 because his grass was 2.7 inches tall instead of 2.5. I laughed. Seriously? Seriously, she measured it with a ruler. Sarah rolled her eyes. Anyway, I hope things work out for you, Mr. Webb, and again, I'm sorry for judging you based on what Patricia said. She walked back to her house, and I walked back to mine. But my peaceful Saturday wasn't over yet. I just sat down on my porch with a glass of lemonade when a fancy black car pulled up. Not Patricia's white Mercedes. This was a different car, bigger and more expensive looking. A man got out. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my truck, and he carried a leather briefcase that looked heavy. Marcus Webb, he called out. That's me, I said, not getting up from my chair. My name is Richard Morrison. I'm the lead attorney for Henderson Development Corporation. Great, just great. First Patricia, then the police, now lawyers. Your client already sent me cease and desist papers, I said. So unless you're here to apologize and offer me a fair settlement, we have nothing to talk about. Richard Morrison smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a shark that's bigger and meaner than Patricia's shark smile. Actually, Mr. Webb, I'm here to deliver these. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. He walked right up to my porch and dropped them on the small table next to my lemonade. You've been served, he said. Henderson Development Corporation is suing you for defamation, harassment, and interference with business operations. My heart started beating faster. What? Your actions today caused significant distress to our HOA president and created panic among our homeowners. Several residents are now threatening to back out of their purchases or demand refunds. That's millions of dollars in potential losses. We are suing you for $5 million in damages. I felt dizzy. $5 million. I was a teacher. I didn't have $5 million. You can't, I started to say. We can and we are, Richard Morrison said. Additionally, we are filing for an emergency injunction to prevent you from showing your property deed to any more Riverside Meadows residents or making any public statements about the property dispute. We're also requesting that the court force you to stop interfering with our business operations. I'm not interfering with anything, I said, standing up now. I'm defending MY property. That's for the court to decide, he said. You'll receive notification of the court date within 2 weeks. I suggest you get a very good attorney, Mr. Webb. You're going to need one. He walked back to his car and drove away, leaving me standing on my porch, staring at the lawsuit papers. My hands were shaking as I picked them up and started reading. The words were all legal and complicated, but the message was clear. They were trying to bury me in lawsuits. Even if I won the property dispute, defending myself against a $5 million lawsuit would bankrupt me. This was their real plan all along. Patricia's harassment was just the warm-up. Now they were bringing out the big guns. I pulled out my phone and called Mr. Chen, my lawyer. Marcus, he answered, I heard about what happened today. One of my friends lives in Riverside Meadows and texted me. Good job standing up to. They're suing me for $5 million, I interrupted. Silence on the other end. Then, what? I explained everything. The lawyer, the papers, the accusations. Mr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, this is a SLAPP suit. A what? Strategic lawsuit against public participation. It's when someone with a lot of money sues someone with less money, not because they think they'll win, but because they want to scare them into giving up. The legal fees alone could ruin you, even if you win. My stomach felt like it had rocks in it, so what do I do? We fight, Mr. Chen said, but I'm not going to lie to you, Marcus. This is going to be expensive, very expensive, and it's going to take time, maybe years. I don't have years, I said. I don't have that kind of money. Then we need to find another way, Mr. Chen said. Let me make some calls. There are lawyers who specialize in fighting SLAPP suits, and there are organizations that help people in situations like yours. Don't give up yet. But as I hung up the phone and looked at the lawsuit papers on my table, I felt more scared than I'd ever felt in my life. Patricia and her company weren't just trying to take my land anymore. They were trying to destroy my entire life. I sat on my porch as the sun started to set, thinking about my grandfather. He'd fought in World War II, came home, built this house, raised a family, and protected this land for 50 years. And now I was about to lose it all because I couldn't afford to fight a big company with unlimited money. Maybe I should just give up, sell them the land for whatever they offered, move away and start over somewhere else. But then I thought about my great-grandfather building this house with his own hands. I thought about all the summers I spent here as a kid, running through the fields, climbing trees, learning from my grandpa about hard work, and standing up for what's right. No, I wasn't going to give up. I didn't know how yet, but I was going to find a way to fight. I was still sitting there, watching the stars come out, when I saw headlights coming up my driveway. Another car. I tensed up, ready for whatever was coming next. But when the car door opened, I saw it was Sarah Chen, the woman from earlier. Mr. Webb, she called out, sorry to bother you again. It's okay, I said, though I was exhausted and just wanted to be alone. I talked to my husband, and we talked to some of the other neighbors, the ones whose houses aren't on your land. She walked closer. We want to help. Help, I repeated. Yes, see, we all moved here thinking we were joining a nice, honest community, but if Patricia and her company committed fraud to build this place, that makes us all look bad. Plus, most of us really don't like Patricia very much. She smiled a little. She's fined half the neighborhood for stupid things. I appreciate the thought, I said, but I don't see how. We want to hire a lawyer for you, Sarah interrupted. As a group, we took up a collection. We've got $15,000 so far, and more people are joining. We figure if we all chip in a little, we can help you fight this. I stared at her. Why would you do that? Because it's the right thing to do, she said simply. And because if they can steal from you, they could steal from us too. We want to know the truth about what we bought. For the first time that day, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this fight. Thank you, I said, my voice cracking a little. That means more than you know. Sarah smiled. We are neighbors, right? Neighbors help each other, even if some of us are technically living on stolen land. She laughed and I laughed too, and for a moment, things felt a little bit better. But my relief didn't last long. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of chainsaws. I ran outside and saw workers at the edge of my property cutting down trees. My trees, the old oaks that had been there for over 100 years. Hey, I screamed, running toward them. Stop, what are you doing? One of the workers turned off his chainsaw. Sorry, man, we're just doing what we were hired to do. These trees are marked for removal for the Riverside Meadows expansion. Those trees are on MY property, I yelled. He shrugged. I'm just doing my job. You got a problem, talk to the boss. And that's when I saw her. Patricia Henderson, standing at the edge of the property line, smiling that terrible smile. Good morning, Mr. Webb, she called out cheerfully. Beautiful day for some landscaping, don't you think? I ran over to her, so angry I could barely speak. You can't cut down my trees. Oh, these trees, she pointed at the workers. According to OUR survey, these trees are on the border of HOA property. We are well within our rights to maintain our landscaping. Your survey is wrong, I shouted. The real property line is. The real property line is what the court decides, Patricia said, her smile getting bigger. And until then, we're going to proceed with our community development plans, which includes removing these ugly old trees and replacing them with nice, approved landscaping. That's when I understood. She was going to destroy everything she could before the court case was over. She was going to cut down trees, build more structures, change the land so much that even if I won in court, there would be nothing left to save. And the worst part, I had no idea how to stop her. I pulled out my phone, and dialed 911 again. 911, what's your emergency? The operator answered. Someone is cutting down trees on my property without permission, I said quickly. They're destroying my land. Sir, is anyone in danger? The trees are in danger, there. Sir, this sounds like a civil property dispute. You'll need to contact a lawyer or file a complaint with. I hung up. They weren't going to help. The police couldn't do anything about a property dispute. I called Mr. Chen instead. Marcus, slow down, he said, after I explained everything in a rush. Okay, here's what we do. I'm going to file an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order. It'll stop them from doing any work on the disputed land until the court decides who owns it. How long will that take? I asked, watching another tree crash to the ground. I can file it today, but the judge might not see it until Monday, maybe Tuesday. They'll have cut down everything by then. I know, I'm sorry, Marcus. The legal system moves slowly. That's why people with money use it as a weapon. I hung up and just stood there, feeling helpless. Patricia was still watching me, still smiling. Then Sarah Chen came running up, with her husband and about 10 other neighbors. We called the police, Sarah said, out of breath. We all did. We reported property destruction. They told me it's a civil matter, I said. They told us that too, Sarah's husband said. His name was David, I learned. But then we told them that we're Riverside Meadows residents and we're witnessing our HOA president possibly committing crimes. We said we felt unsafe and wanted an officer to come document everything. Smart, really smart. Sure enough, about 10 minutes later, Officer Martinez showed up again. He did not look happy to be here. Folks, he said, getting out of his car, what's going on now? Everyone started talking at once. Officer Martinez held up his hands. One at a time. Mr. Webb, you first. I explained about the trees, about how they were on my property, about how Patricia was destroying them before the court could decide the case. Officer Martinez walked over to Patricia. Ma'am, is this true? Are you cutting down trees on disputed property? Patricia pulled out a paper. Officer, according to our survey, these trees are on Henderson Development property. We have every right to maintain our land. But there's an active legal dispute about where the property line is, Officer Martinez said. Which hasn't been decided yet, Patricia said sweetly. Until a court says otherwise, we're going with our survey. Officer Martinez looked frustrated. Ma'am, I strongly suggest you stop this work until the court makes a decision. Are you ordering me to stop? Patricia asked. I'm suggesting it. Then we'll continue, Patricia said. We have permits for this work. Officer Martinez turned to me. Mr. Webb, I'm sorry, but she's right. Without a court order, I can't stop her from working on what her survey says is her land. You need to get that restraining order from your lawyer. But by then, it'll be too late, I said. I know, I'm sorry. He looked like he really meant it. Document everything, take pictures and videos. It'll help your case in court. He left, and the chainsaws started up again. I spent the whole day taking pictures and videos on my phone. So did Sarah and David and the other neighbors who came to support me. We documented every tree that fell, every cut they made, every piece of land they destroyed. By sunset, 12 old oak trees were gone. Trees that had been standing since before I was born. Trees my grandfather used to sit under. Trees that had shaded my great-grandfather while he built our house. Gone. I sat on my porch that night, too tired and sad to even eat dinner. My phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Chen. Filed emergency motion. Hearing scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m. I'll do my best. Tuesday, that was 3 days away. Who knew what Patricia would destroy by then? I was about to go inside when I heard footsteps. I looked up and saw a man I didn't recognize walking up my driveway. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and glasses. Marcus Webb, he asked. Yeah, I said, too tired to even be cautious. My name is Robert Fletcher. I'm a retired county surveyor. I heard about what's happening to you. Great, I said, another person who can't help me. He smiled a little. Actually, I think I can. You see, I did some surveying work in this area back in the 1980s, including work on this exact property. I sat up straighter. You worked on my grandfather's land. I did. Your grandfather hired me to do an official survey when he was updating his will, wanted to make sure everything was documented properly for when he passed it down. Robert pulled out a folder from his bag. I kept copies of all my old surveys. It's kind of a hobby, and when I heard about the dispute, I went digging through my files. He handed me the folder. Inside were old papers, yellowed with age, but the maps and measurements were clear. This is the real property line, Robert said, pointing, measured and certified in 1985, and look at this notation here. I looked where he was pointing. There was a note in small handwriting, client concerned about eastern boundary, triple-checked measurements against county records. Confirmed property extends 3.2 acres beyond recorded county line as of 1985. County records appear incomplete or incorrectly transferred from original 1952 deed. Wait, I said, my heart beating faster. So even back in 1985, there was a problem with the county records. Exactly, Robert said. Your grandfather noticed it. He was a sharp man. The county had made an error when they digitized old paper records in the 1970s. They cut off part of your property by mistake. Your grandfather documented it with my survey, but he never got around to officially correcting it with the county. He always said he would, but, Robert shrugged, life gets busy. So this proves the county records are wrong, I asked. This proves they've been wrong for 50 years, and more importantly, Robert pulled out another paper. I also surveyed the land that Henderson Development claims they purchased. Want to know something interesting? What? The legal description in their purchase documents, it matches the wrong county records, the ones from the 1970s era, which means they knowingly bought land based on faulty information. Or they knew it was faulty and didn't care, I said, understanding now. Exactly, and if they did their own survey before buying, which any good developer would, they would have discovered the error, which means either they were incompetent or they committed fraud on purpose. I looked at all the papers spread out in front of me. Can I give these to my lawyer? That's why I'm here, Robert said. I already made copies for you and sent a set to the county surveyor's office. I also wrote a formal statement explaining the error in the county records and how long it's been there. This should help your case significantly. For the first time in days, I felt hope, real hope. Why are you helping me? I asked. Robert smiled sadly. Because I liked your grandfather, he was a good man, and because I hate seeing big companies bully regular people. I may be retired, but I still believe in doing the right thing. We shook hands, and he left. I immediately scanned all the documents and emailed them to Mr. Chen. He called me 5 minutes later. Marcus, this is gold. This is exactly what we needed. With this, we can prove not only that you own the land, but that Henderson Development should have known about the error before they built. So we can win, I asked. We have a much better chance now. I'm going to add this to our emergency motion. This changes everything. I went to bed that night feeling better than I had in weeks. But I should have known better. I woke up Monday morning to the sound of breaking glass. I ran to my window and saw people throwing rocks at my house. Not just 1 or 2 people, at least 20 people, all wearing matching white t-shirts that said Riverside Meadows Residents Association. Get out, they were chanting, get out, get out. I grabbed my phone and called 911 again. Then I looked closer at the crowd and realized something that made my blood run cold. Sarah Chen was there, and David, and all the other neighbors who had said they wanted to help me. They were throwing rocks at my house. I ran downstairs and out the front door. Sarah, what are you doing? Sarah's face was red and angry. You lied to us. What? I didn't lie about anything. Patricia showed us the real documents, David shouted. She showed us proof that you're trying to steal land from the HOA. You made us all look like idiots. That's not true. Whatever she showed you is fake. Liar, someone screamed, and another rock flew past my head. That's when Officer Martinez and Officer Chen pulled up with 3 other police cars. Officers jumped out and got between me and the angry crowd. Everyone back, Officer Martinez shouted, now. The crowd stopped throwing rocks, but kept yelling. What's going on here? Officer Chen demanded. Patricia Henderson pushed through the crowd. She was smiling, but she pretended to look concerned. Officers, these poor homeowners just discovered that Mr. Webb has been lying to them. He's been trying to manipulate them into helping him steal HOA property. That's a lie, I shouted. Is it? Patricia pulled out a folder. I have documents here from 3 different surveyors, all showing that the property belongs to Henderson Development. I also have statements from county officials confirming our property records are correct. Those are fake, I said. I have documents from some retired surveyor nobody's ever heard of. Patricia laughed. Officers, Mr. Webb has been spreading misinformation and turning our peaceful community into a war zone. Some of our residents are so stressed they're considering breaking their contracts and moving out. That's going to cost our community millions of dollars. Sarah stepped forward. I believed him. I gave him money. We all did. And he's been lying the whole time. I didn't lie. I felt like I was going crazy. She's manipulating you. Mr. Webb, Officer Martinez said quietly, I think you should go inside. But inside, now, before someone gets hurt. I looked at the angry crowd, at Sarah and David, who I thought were my friends, at Patricia's smug smile. I went inside and locked my door. Through the window, I watched as Patricia talked to the crowd, probably telling them more lies. I watched as the neighbors I thought I could trust nodded along with everything she said. I watched as they all slowly walked away, back to their perfect houses in their perfect neighborhood. The police left too, but Officer Martinez knocked on my door first. Mr. Webb, I'm going to be straight with you, he said through the door. You need to be careful. Mob mentality is dangerous. These people are angry, and angry people do stupid things. They believed her instead of me, I said. She has money and lawyers and fancy documents. You have an old surveyor's papers. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I understand why they believe her. He paused. Just be careful, lock your doors, maybe stay somewhere else for a few days. He left. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up broken glass and calling Mr. Chen to tell him what happened. They're trying to isolate you, Mr. Chen said. Classic intimidation tactic, make you think you're alone so you'll give up. It's working, I admitted. Don't give up, Marcus. We have the hearing tomorrow. Once the judge sees Robert Fletcher's survey and statement, things will change. If we make it to tomorrow, I said. That night I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every car that drove past made me wonder if it was someone coming to throw more rocks or do something worse. Around 2 a.m., I heard something that made me sit up in bed. Footsteps on my porch. Quiet, sneaky footsteps. Then I smelled it. Gasoline. Someone was pouring gasoline on my porch. I grabbed my phone and ran to the window just in time to see a figure in dark clothes running away. I called 911. Then I grabbed my fire extinguisher and ran outside. The gasoline was everywhere. On my porch, on my door, on the windows, but whoever poured it hadn't lit it yet. The police came, fire department came. They took samples of the gasoline and looked for evidence. Officer Martinez shook his head. Mr. Webb, you can't stay here, it's not safe. This is my home, I said. My family's home, I'm not leaving. Someone just tried to burn down your house with you in it, he said. Please, be smart about this. But I couldn't leave. If I left, Patricia won. If I left, my grandfather's land was gone forever. I'm staying, I said. The police left. The fire department left. I sat on my porch with my fire extinguisher, watching the sun come up. At 8 a.m., my phone rang. It was Mr. Chen. His voice sounded strange, wrong. Marcus, he said, I have bad news, really bad news. My stomach dropped. What happened? Robert Fletcher, the surveyor who helped us. What about him? He died last night, heart attack. The world seemed to spin. What? He's dead, Marcus, and all his original documents, the ones from his office, not the copies he gave you, they're gone. His family says someone broke into his office last night and stole his files. No, I whispered, no, no, no. The copies he gave you are all we have, but without his testimony in court, without his original documents, Patricia's lawyers will argue they're fake. They'll say we forged them. But the county surveyor's office, Robert said he sent them copies. I called them this morning. They say they never received anything. No documents, no statement, nothing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Everything was falling apart, everything. We still have the hearing today, Mr. Chen said. We'll present what we have and hope the judge. Hope, I interrupted. That's all we have, hope. I'm sorry, Marcus. I'm so sorry. I hung up and sat there on my gasoline-soaked porch, watching Riverside Meadows wake up, watching people leave for work from their perfect houses in their perfect neighborhood built on stolen land. And I realized something. I was going to lose. I was going to lose my land, my home, everything my family had built. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. At 1:30 p.m., I got in my truck to drive to the courthouse for the 2 p.m. hearing. That's when I saw it. Spray painted across my truck in huge red letters. Leave or die.